Hey, my guys. Welcome to episode 24 of the My Guys Magic podcast. Pete here with my buddy Joe. Say what's up, Joe.
Hey guys, what's up?
Oh, what's up, Joe? Good to see you.
How are you, sir?
Me, been better, been worse. Who cares?
SSDD.
What's that?
SSDD.
SSDD.
Same stuff, different
Yep,
day.
that's it. That's it. So this week, I'm gonna run through some upcoming events, and then we're gonna talk about the modern meta as we're getting into modern season. RCQs start this Saturday, so excited for that. And then we're gonna be discussing mulliganing. So we're here so Joe can teach me how to mulligan.
Too much credit.
Upcoming events, we have May 1st weekend is MagicCon Vegas with Pro Tour Secrets of Strixhaven. And then weekend of May 15th is RC Cincinnati, which is standard. And the weekend of May 28th, RC DC, which is standard. There's some NRG events at PopCom in Indianapolis the weekend of May 8th. And I'm sure there's some other things we're missing, but just excited to get into modern season. Finally,
Yes, sir.
I think at 10 standard seasons in a row or something.
No, it wasn't 10.
It was two. It was two. I'm exaggerating.
It was
So,
only
with
2?
I believe so, yeah.
That's not that bad.
No.
I just miss Pioneer. I'm going to say that once an episode until Pioneer comes back.
What's that?
Oh, I don't know. It was just a game we used to play.
Pioneer was fun, but yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Joe, if you want to
Jumping into the modern metagame.
jumping into modern.
Yeah, so nothing too significant. I think this week we're just going to talk about a few of the Laughing Dragon events that happened out in Seattle. So first off, there were 30 people in the Laughing Dragon Invitational, which was actually won by Is It Affinity. And then Azorius Control got in second, and it was kind of playing this like heavy Planeswalker version with only 2 Little Tefs, 3 Narset, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, Teferi, 5 mana Teferi, and a Wandering Emperor, which I
Nice.
really appreciated. Just 1 Isochron Scepter, only 1 Days Undoing, 23 lands, 1 Lorien Revealed. And then, some things to note is they weren't playing any of the Consult the Star Charts. They were just all in on Stock Up. But pretty similar, they're playing 2 Tune the Narrative main, which I think they're trying to power up their Wrath of the Skies. It kind of seems free, but yeah, did really well. In the sideboard, I don't know, 2 more Wrath of the Skies, a little bit of interaction, 1 more Isochron Scepter, 1 Tameo in the board, and then a Vidilian Click, which is kind of a little spicy.
Yeah, pretty hot. I like the main deck Washington.
Yeah, card's so good.
But don't forget, shout out our boy.
Oh, yeah, of course, Damien Del Nero, destroying. Gruul Ramp, Gruul Eldrazi. What else is new? Let's see what kind of tech Damien had in here. 3 Devour, 3 Emrakul, 4 Sowing Michael Spawn, 4 Writhing Chrysalis, 4 Red-Green Talisman, 4K Command, of course, 3 Ugin, 3 Unholy Heat, no Kozilek's Return in the main, just Blasphemous Act in the sideboard, 2 Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act is 8 and 1 red. Sorcery, it costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and it does 13 damage to each creature. Not bad.
Seems good.
Not bad. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's 30 people in here. Not a lot of hard data, but obviously these are all fairly talented players because they had to place well at previous Laughing Dragon events to make it here. Of course, we have a Puglisi brother in the top 8 running Jeskai control. Uh, so I think that speaks to the caliber of player here. You know, a couple Gorios, a Living End, Boros Energy, a Neoform deck, and then, you know, a couple more Boros Energy, Jeskai Blink Affinity, Esper Blink, a Titan deck in top 8. Yeah, some recognized names here in this tournament, so interesting data point. Then we had the 5K at the Laughing Dragon, 88 players, taken down by Boros Energy. The other Puglisi brother got in second. I assume there was a split there in the top, maybe. So
See, Cooter Boy took it down with energy.
Lyndon Coot, you know him?
Not personally, just on the Twitters. Got a guide from him, so he's a
Okay.
good dude.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lyndon Coot. Yeah, a lot of Boros Energy in this 5K. And then the 10.
Yeah, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's clearly just like a consistent deck.
I think the most consistent deck in Modern right now, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Titan is still probably the most consistent deck. It's the most powerful deck. Maybe it's not the most consistent, but I think that Boros is the most consistent deck that's the most heavily played because it is just kind of powerful and it's an order of magnitude easier to pilot than Titan, in my opinion. Is that like a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah, like
I
if you,
think Titan is the best deck.
yeah,
It's disgusting.
like I think if you have played Magic for an extended amount of time, you can probably have a 15-minute conversation with a friend. If you've played Magic for an extended period of time and you understand the modern meta, you can have a 15-minute conversation with a friend who's played Boros Energy. Maybe they give you a sideboard guide and you play 10 games with the deck and you can probably go do well in a tournament. Whereas with Amulet Titan, the sideboard guide, the de facto sideboard guide for Amulet Titan is a 30-page manifesto from Dom Harvey, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
we talked about that last week.
yeah, and you probably need 100 games to be competent, right? Like or 50 at least, right? Like it's at least a couple factors more reps to be equally competent in the deck versus Boros Energy. So, and speaking of Amulet Titan, it took down the 10K, which had 211 players. The rest of the top 8 was rounded out by Affinity, Esper Blink, Simic Ritual, Demir Frog, Ruby Storm, Living End, and another Affinity list. Couple.
Yeah, you're a Affinity fan, right?
Yeah, man. The deck. So the deck it's just very unique. I think that it can be as explosive as an Amulet Titan deck, but it has the interaction of like a mid-range ish deck, you know, with Sink into Stupors and Metallic Rebukes, and it has like main deck hate with, you know, EEs and Graveyard Disruption with Tormod's Crypt. And then it has the ability to grind with Urza Saga and Emery, and weapons manufacturing has a very kind of grindy element to it as well. The problem that the deck has, in my opinion, is it's very hard to mulligan with, which we're going to talk about today. And it has some clunky draws, right? So if you kind of get into mulligan trouble, you can get punished. And the deck, you don't want to mulligan with the deck either, right? But you have to sometimes, like you're not always going to have a nutty draw, and you need to try to mulligan to that nutty draw. But kind of depending upon what you're playing against, is kind of dictates how you mulligan. So definitely one of the many decks that requires a very careful mulligan process.
Yeah, and goldfishing it give you practice on mulligans on keepable hands,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because going down to 5 and having to turn 2 kappa is better than keeping a 7 that doesn't do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty hard to get a turn 2 kappa on 5
You're not
unless you're on the draw. If you're on the draw, you could do it for sure. But it's possible.
not yeah, try harder.
Try harder, definitely, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I I, I think there's 3 camps in modern in the modern meta right now. There's like Boros Energy by itself, right, which is the mid-range deck, and then you have decks that are just trying to kill your opponent. Amulet, Affinity, um, and Prowess, and Neoform. I'm probably missing something
Probably
else.
Storm.
And Storm. Yeah. So just like not really trying to interact. They're just trying to get you dead very quickly. Or at least that's kind of part of their dynamic, is just get you dead.
Which is good in a meta with this much energy, Boros energy,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And then you have kind of Tron, I guess, is its own separate thing, right? Tron's still doing its Tron thing. And then you have the Blink decks that are trying to fill this mid range role. And kind of a subset of the Blink decks is Gorios, in my opinion. I think that Gorios plays like a Blink deck, but also has this like crazy finish, or it has these crazy lines where it's like, oh, here's an Atraxa on turn, 2. Deal with it.
So is it more of a mid-range deck or combo control, like combo mid-range combo? You'd say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but I think more often than not, I don't know. I don't have a lot of reps with it, but I think that a lot of the times, especially post sideboard, you're playing more of a mid-range game where you're having to play around interaction, you're having to defeat, some of your opponent's sideboard cards, or at least be cognizant of them. And the game is a lot more mid-rangey. Whereas like game 1, you're just trying to speedball an Atraxa or a Gristlebrand. And some people are playing Ulamog. But
What about secret best deck in modern Jeskai Blink?
yeah, so I think whether it's Esper Blink, Jeskai Blink, or Orzhov Blink, I think there's pros and cons to each of those. I think that Jeskai Blink is the best one, but I think that it struggles with its mana base, and it can get attacked by moon effects, Harbinger of the Seas, Blood Moon, right? Is that fair to say?
Yep. It is fair to say why you have to rub it in.
I mean, sometimes it, it's even a
So
problem itself, right? Like,
Joe and I played against each other round 1 Monday night. I was on Jeskai Blink. He was on Affinity. I stumbled on lands and he played a Harbinger.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was the nail in the coffin, right?
Yeah.
It,
So of course he brings it up now, like nonchalant, like nothing. Oh, we're just talking about modern, not about what I did to you.
I'm not trying to rub it into you, dude. But I think that because like it even happened in other matches you told me, right? And it's one of the things
Yes.
about playing 3 color decks. Even in modern with fetches, you're gonna have times where You're not even getting the colors you want.
Right. So I just picked up the deck. Ran 2 leagues so far, both 3-2, 1-0 in the third league right now. But Monday in paper didn't go so well. It was my first time playing it in paper. So I figure with more reps, more practice. And then I chatted with Vinny last night. Shout out
Yeah,
my boy Vinny. He gave me some
Vinny.
suggestions, and I've adopted those, and we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah,
I
and we
think the
talked
deck's
about that
pretty
today a little
great.
bit, right? He said that. What was he saying about Casey Jones?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
Doesn't fit his play style, right?
Yeah. And I guess I feel like the card is. Oh, so he was saying
He likes Fable.
there was like some
He still
discussion
likes
about
Fable.
Fable and versus Casey Jones. Yeah. I just think Casey Jones is crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe Byrne is coming back. No, I'm just kidding. That's probably nonsense,
Maybe.
but um, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm on
Like
a
a three
split
mana
now.
draw 3/4/3 body is so good.
I'm trying the 2 Fable, 1 Casey split. Fable's been
Mm-hmm.
nice. Went against my Tron opponent this morning. He took my turn where he Emerald and takes my turn where Fable's going to chapter 2. He makes the wrong choice, loses.
Oh no. What was the
What
wrong
happened?
choice?
Well, I had 2 Riddlers in play, and I had a Solitude, Archive, Hollowed Fountain, and Consign in hand. And so he discards the Solitude. Instead of discarding the Consign and the Fountain to try and dig for a white card to Solitude one of my Riddlers and attack the other Riddler into the. So he just attacked with one Riddler and left me with the other one. Didn't play the Archive to fix so he could manipulate my draw for my next turn.
Mm.
That was it.
But he did discard the Solitude, and you're saying he shouldn't have? He should have tried to draw another white card and use it?
Yeah, possibly get rid of my other Riddler.
Hmm. Doesn't he get.
But then he gets punished if he doesn't draw a white card there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think he's kind of got to. Yeah, I don't know. That's how those Emrakul turns can feel sometimes. It's like you cast Emrakul and you're like, oh, I didn't really get to do anything. Like I killed one of your dopey creatures or whatever. Like, cool, go ahead.
Right.
I don't know. What are we missing?
Belcher, he played against Mike was playing
Yeah,
Belcher
Mike
the
was
other
playing
night.
Belcher.
That's still good.
Yeah, I mean,
Living Ends back on the map with the elementals
yeah,
from Lorwyn and the speaker, right?
yeah. Obviously, Azorius Control and Jeskai Control are doing well. I think that those are good against the blink decks. Um, Teferi is very good against those decks, um, and I think that Control is good against Titan. And it really only struggles against Prowess, Affinity, and Boros, right? Those like hyperlinear aggro decks. Um, and I think it struggles more so against Boros Energy because of the diversity of threats with Ajani and Flage, kind of having like mid-game recursive threats. Like they're never running out of gas, and they have like an early clock. Whereas like Prowess's refill mechanism is an expressive iteration, which can be countered. And Affinity, you know, like it has some refill mechanisms, but there's not a lot of them in the deck. So they're just hoping to interact at a key point and then kill you on the next turn, or grind you out with weapons manufacturing and Urza Saga. But Wrath of the Skies seems like a pretty good answer to that. So,
Yeah, I can
I,
see how they struggle with energy, right? Because they're just like play 3 1 drops on the first 3 turns and do some damage, get wiped. Oh, cool. Here's a hasty flage out of the yard.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if I was going to play a deck that wasn't one of the like hyperlinear decks, like if I was going to play Titan or Affinity, I think I would probably play some version of Control over Blink because I think that Control has a better game into Titan, and then it has lines where it can beat the aggressive decks, but it is a challenge. But I think it is favored in the mid range matchups. That's just my thought.
Yeah,
You think
that's
I'm
not.
crazy? I don't know.
No. You were right because when I play against Control, if they get it, like you said, if they get a 3 mana taff down that I can't answer,
Tough.
it's brutal. Yeah.
It's tough. So what do you say we talk about Mulligans, man?
Well, let's talk about Hollow One.
Oh, all right.
No, let's not. Let's not.
No, go ahead.
Before I talk myself into playing it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Halloween's good, right? Like it's still, even watching Sam suit up the giant nether goyf with a what's the detective phoenix? Detective's phoenix?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the deck can
crazy.
do some nutty stuff, and I think Bowmasters is pretty decent right now, right?
Hmm.
So you can win with it,
Yeah.
but so many solitudes in the format.
Mm.
I don't think it's.
Too many solitudes and ephemerate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If Solitude wasn't in the format, I'd play Hollow One. And was it a couple seasons ago when I won the RCQ with Hollow One? It's like, oh, here, turn 3, here's a 2/7/7s, and now one's a 9/7. Just like, oh, cool.
It's a lot. So Pete, why is it hard to mulligan? Why do you think you struggle with mulligan? What is your thought process that like what do you think it is about it?
What do I think? Why do I think I struggle with it?
Yeah, or anybody, others, players in general, whatever you think.
Just maybe I'm afraid to go down cards, right?
Yeah.
It's like wait, I'll just keep this because it has some lands and some spells, but it doesn't enact my plan, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just convince myself that I'll draw
Exactly.
into some stuff, right? And
Yeah.
like if my deck has a specific plan, I shouldn't be afraid to go down to 6 or 5.
Hmm. So,
And go ahead.
no, you're good. Finish your thought, my bad.
No, I lost it.
Don't lie to me. Don't give me that Alzheimer's BS.
No, I struggle with it, right? Like I'll keep like iffy hands because, well, what if I go to 6 and it's worse, and then I'm down a card, and I'm just like self-defeating prophecy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the way that you should think about it, and I even struggle with it because I literally will get tired of shuffling the deck. I'm just like, especially in playtesting. In a tournament, especially a higher level tournament, I would like to think that I'd be more disciplined to be like, all right, I really got to like throw this hand back. It's not good enough. But that's like just the thought of like, oh my gosh, I got to shuffle the deck and like the clock, like all that can kind of weigh into. But you said it perfectly. I'm going to draw out of it. But in modern, especially, uh, where the game is decided turn 3, turn 4, certainly by turn 5 in most matches. If you're on the play, if modern is 100% determined by turn 3 or 4, we'll just say turn 4. We'll say 90% of modern games are determined by turn 4. You're on the play, you're going to look at 10 cards. You're going to look at 3 more cards. Maybe a surveil, you'll get to look at one more. but you're not going to get to draw it. So those 7 cards are what is 70% of the resources that you have to win the game with. So you kind of got to frame it that way. And obviously there's some decks where, maybe you're drawing more, or just the way that your plan develops, you're going to be able to look at more cards, but that should be how you consider like your entering point, right? This is the resources that I'm going to have for the game. Basically, I'm only going to have maybe 1 or 2 more cards. So what am I likely to draw? And what's worst case and best case scenario, and the most probable. In 3 draws, you're probably going to draw at least 1 land, right? And then what other 2 cards am I going to draw? Like a threat, an interaction, whatever it's going to be. So it's just a way to frame it. Obviously,
If you're me, it'll just be 3 or 4 more lands.
yeah. Or if you're me on affinity against Tom, and you've cracked Bobble 5 times with an unanswered Emery, it'll be no lands when you
No
really needed
lands.
one. So, yeah. So there's a couple different ways you want to think about mulliganing beyond what I just said, right? I think number 1, can't be lazy. You have to be disciplined about what is an acceptable hand given a matchup. And then you also have to consider play versus draw. So if you're on the draw, you generally want to keep a deck that's a little bit lower to the ground, especially if you're playing against an aggressive deck and you need to be able to answer their threats immediately or counter with cheap threats as well, which kind of speaks to how you sideboard as well, which is again a whole nother thing. But when you sideboard on the draw, you're generally wanting to trim your mana curve to be a little bit lower. And another thing that I personally like to do is cut a land, because you're on the draw, you're going to be more likely to draw a land. And so on the draw, you might be okay with keeping a 2-land hand, because you'll be able to draw that 3rd land. Or, if you're playing a deck that's lower to the ground and you've got a surveil, or however it's going to pan out, if you've got a couple more looks, maybe you're okay to keep a 1-lander if you have a couple more looks in a way, but you want to make sure you have the right amount of mana is kind of the start, the going in point. And then also on the draw, right? Like if you're having the aggressive deck, you want to make sure you have early interaction. Or if you're playing a combo deck, what do I need to be aware of to enact my plan? And is this hand gonna get me there? Like, can I keep a hand without an amulet, right? Like if I'm playing Amulet Titan, can I keep a hand that doesn't have an Amulet of Vigor or doesn't have an Urza Saga, right? Can I keep that hand? Generally not, right? You got to have one or the other. Like you got to have a Spelunking, an Amulet, or an Urza Saga, and it's better to have multiple of them, because that's how your combo functions. It's based on you having those cards. But maybe if you're playing against blue-white control and you need to kind of grind a little bit more, maybe it's not that key that you have them. But I don't think that Amulet can really afford to enter any game state where it's not trying to kill you, immediately. So especially with blue-white, it's probably the opposite. You probably have to go extra fast against blue-white and just hope you catch them without the right interaction, and you just kill them on turn, 2 or 3.
2 is crazy.
Yeah, but it happens. Like it's,
Yeah, often.
Right.
But no, I was focused on mulliganing in Milwaukee, right? took a different approach because I knew I struggled with it. So I got plenty of reps with my deck. So I knew my deck. I knew what my deck wanted to do, and I mulliganed aggressively for the tournament. I think I had the best results I've had, right? Then it showed, I wasn't afraid to go to five. And then, I mean, historically, anytime I mulligan properly, I win more than I do when I keep non-functioning hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's
Yeah,
just a fact.
100%.
I love how you talked about it takes discipline. Have to stay disciplined. I'm probably
Yeah.
lazy, like you said.
Yeah, I think that
Like, I'll be all right.
I'll draw out of it. But if you take an extra second to really consider if you are likely to draw out of it and really like think about it, like what do I need to draw out of this, and make a fair like statistical assessment of whether or not you will draw out of it. Um, that's usually easy to do with lands, right? I think that's probably the most common mulligan centered decision is the number of lands that you have or don't have. Like if you have too many or too few. Um, but I think there's a lot of times where, there's other stuff going on as well that you need to consider. But
Yeah, yeah, I agree, especially in the recent standard formats, right? Making sure you hit your land drops was important. Anytime you
into the late
stumble,
game.
yeah, anytime you stumble on lands, it's pretty much over. Um, and then mulliganing post board, right? So say you're playing against some combo decks, and I have some silver bullets that pretty much just hose it, and I win. Don't be afraid to mulligan aggressively for those pieces, right?
Yeah, especially if you can't win a game without those silver bullets, right? Like there are going to be some silver bullets, quote unquote, especially in the modern format, that are completely backbreaking to a particular deck, and you have to mulligan pretty aggressively to those spots. Um, I think another deck that's really good at teaching you how to mulligan is Tron. Tron is basically a non-functional deck without having Tron lands on turn 3. But if you get, I mean, I think I've lost to a Tron deck where it was Caleb. Caleb mulliganed to 4, or no, he mulliganed to 5, and I commemorated him. This was old years back, and he basically had like 3 Tron lands. He had like 3 Tron lands and a uh like a chromatic star or whatever, chromatic sphere, one of those things. And so I took his sphere, and then I was like, oh well, I kind of have to keep this grief around to try to kill you. And he just went Tron land, Tron land, Tron land, and I think he bricked for a turn, and then he was just like, here's a big dumb Tron card, like you can't
Yep.
beat it now. So um, that's a good example of like an aggressive mulligan deck that teaches you like you have to have Tron on 3.
Right, we're talking old mono green Tron, right?
Right, old school mono green Tron, not Eldrazi, Gruul Eldrazi, for which is, they say E-Tron, but I don't even think they're like Gruul Eldrazi's not playing Tron.
Right.
But you do
No,
need to
this one, sorry,
go ahead.
the newer version of Eldrazi Tron, right? They're playing Tron lands. They're playing the Ugin's Labyrinth. They're playing Eldrazi Temple. And it's basically a colorless deck, right? Playing main deck, Trinisphere, Chalices. Um, but they don't have to get the Tron lands because now they have Temple and Ugin's Labyrinth. So,
Yeah, yeah. For Gruul Eldrazi, you want to have 4 mana on turn 2, or I think it's 4 mana on 2 or 7 mana on turn 3 to be able to play like a turn 2 Karn or a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, or to be able to play Ugin on 3, which it seems kind of ridiculous to have 7 mana on turn 3 with that deck, but you can cast a Kozilek's Command and make a bunch of spawn tokens with, an Ugin's Lab and an Eldrazi Temple, and then you play your third land, and now you have, enough to get it done. But
Yeah.
it's and so the Mulligan situation, that is what makes Amulet Titan and even Affinity to a certain extent so difficult to mulligan with, because there are so many different lines and layers to the way that the game can develop with a particular hand, that whereas like Tron, it's very the mulligan rules are very easy. You need to have, ideally you keep 7, you have Tron on 3 and a payoff. That's ideal. But at a minimum keepable hand for mono green Tron is Tron on 3. Those 3 Tron lands. And then with the mid-range decks, it's even easier, right? You got just some lands, some spells. You're playing aggressive deck, you want to have some cheaper interaction, faster start. If you're playing, a graveyard deck, you want to try to mulligan to the graveyard interaction. But with Amulet Titan, there's so many different enablers in the deck, and there's like so many different duplicates and bizarre lines. And I think that for Amulet Titan, there's been enough content generated and written about the deck that you can learn how to do it if you wanted to. You just got to put in the time. And Affinity,
Yes.
it's not as hard as Titan, but I think it is a little bit more finicky with that. You basically have to have at least 1 land, ideally 2 mana sources, preferably an opal, but if you have 2 lands, it's okay. Kappa on 2 is keepable into pretty much any deck, except for Titan. You need to have interaction for Titan, unless you're mulliganing. And then there's kind of cutoffs, right? When you mulligan, maybe it's acceptable to have the key interaction and then some pieces that will get you moving towards having a fast clock. But yeah, it's honestly, mulliganing correctly just takes a lot of reps. It takes kind of bringing everything together, understanding how your matchup goes, and having the discipline to know when your hand is not good enough, right? And not being lazy, like, I don't want to shuffle this up, I think I'm going to draw out of it, and taking an extra 45 seconds to look at your hand and think about the first 3 turns of what you're going to do and what your opponent could do.
That's it. Goes back into what we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? The golden rule.
Yeah, we share
Think
that.
through your whole turn before you do anything.
Yeah, and I think with the mulligan decision at the beginning of the game, you need to try to think through the first few turns, right, as to what things are going to look like, which kind of brings us to the next point of mulliganing, and that's whether or not it's open or closed deck list. So in a closed deck list format, it can be a little bit harder to mulligan because you're going into a tournament and you basically have to make your mulligan decision based off of what the most popular decks are and what you're most likely to pay. And then obviously, you're just trying to enact your game plan as like the floor of a keepable hand. And then once you've played them, all right, now you know what they're playing. If you're still in a closed deck list format, you don't know exactly what their sideboard is. So you have to be cognizant of like some weird things that your opponents might have in their sideboard that could kind of wreck your plan, and you're going to want to think about how to sidestep that. And then going into game 2, how is that going to affect my mulligan decisions? What sideboard cards did they bring in? What sideboard cards did I bring in? And how is that going to pan out?
Right. Need to determine whether I need to enact my plan quickly or focus on stopping their plan,
Right.
which is more important right now, right?
Right. And yeah, and is your clock going to beat their clock? Right. So can you enact your plan, or do you have to slowly enact your plan and be able to interact? Or are you playing Titan and you just have to enact your plan more quickly?
Right. And have 15 plus lands on turn 3 and just
Yeah.
loop analyst and make me cry.
And then with open deck lists, right? Obviously everything's all out on the table, and you can make decisions about how to adjust your mulligan decisions from there based on what your opponent may or may not be bringing in.
Yeah, and it also all ties into knowing the expected meta, right?
Yes.
I should know having the reps against the meta decks, knowing what my deck needs to do to beat those decks, all helps influence mulligan decisions.
Yeah. And there's some matchups that you're going to play and some decks that you're going to play where knowledge of the meta is more important to how you enact your game plan. And then there's, honestly, with Amulet Titan, you're trying to just do your nutty combo thing, but there are some decks that are bringing in more hate for you that you need to be aware of, right? You need to be aware of Blood Moon effects. You need to be aware of Damping Sphere. What else? Subtlety.
Ashiok.
Ashiok, right? Like how do you deal with Ashiok? Can you beat Ashiok? Can you afford to put Amulet Titan onto the battlefield without any value? And is it going to be able to cross the finish line and kill the Ashiok, and then you can enact your game plan? Like, is that even feasible? Yeah, so a lot to think about. We don't have all the answers. I think this conversation was just try to frame how you should think about some of that and try to go from there.
Yeah, well, I thought you were gonna tell us all how to mulligan.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it was meaningful in any way?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
learned some.
Yeah. So how would you kind of summarize all that? I think golden rule, think through your start. Don't be lazy.
Yeah, don't be lazy. Stay disciplined, especially in a long tournament. It's easy to, near the end of the day, just keep a hand that's possibly functional,
Mhm.
but doesn't get there. You know,
Yeah.
knowing what your deck's plan is and what cards you need to enact that plan. Right.
Right.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go to 5.
For sure. For sure. Well, yeah, man, I think we covered it. I think we covered it. And so that's the last thing. I think there's a lot more that we could talk about though, kind of going in the future. I think that we should have an episode on like sideboarding.
Yeah,
And I really think that
I think that would be good.
the best way to do sideboarding is to have like a sideboard map, which is like a visual thing. It's typically done in like Excel, Microsoft Excel, where you kind of map out what your expected meta looks like, and then you can adjust your main deck and sideboard with that mapping. It's especially applicable with like mid-range decks, but or mid-range oriented type decks, or decks that have a lot of interaction. I think that that's very helpful to help you hone your sideboard choices and main deck. And it kind of helps you think about your game plan in a visual way. So I think we'll talk about that at some point in the future. I think next week we're going to be talking about Strixhaven though, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, pre-release in 2 weeks.
yeah. So you got anything else to share today?
No, I think that's it. Just excited to jam some more games with Jeskai Blink and
Yeah.
get proficient with that.
It felt good to play Modern on Monday, even if I did throw the match against Tom. But yeah, it's been good.
That happens, especially playing standard for so long. It's
I
like
know.
we haven't touched modern in a minute since Vegas, right?
Right. But hey, if you've listened thus far, we really appreciate it. Please follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, Spotify. We will be eventually getting, and YouTube. We will be getting an Apple Podcast set up here soon, hopefully before episode 50. And we've had a lot of people asking us specifically for that. Facebook will be coming soon. We want to start posting these videos on YouTube along with our audio, right? So you guys can see Pete's beautiful face. But
this whole
yeah,
thing?
Man. Yeah, baby. But yeah, man. Pete, always a pleasure talking to you, bro.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's been fun.
I'm going to get some sleepies. All right, my guys. See you next week.
All right, my guys. Peace.